Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is C Certified Brewhead, and welcome to episode 103 of Beer Nuts, the podcast Adjunct series. This evening, we are having finally taken ourselves back to the West Coast. This is only our second brewery from British Columbia that we've had on the pod, which is kind of ridiculous now I think about it. So, I trade with some friends out in BC. I get some of the stuff from time to time, but we really want to support the scene out there a lot more. And so I'm super, super happy to be hanging out this evening with Cris from Hypha Project in Vancouver. Sir, welcome.
How you doing,
man?
Great,
brother. Thank you for hanging out. Great to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too, and thanks for having me on. I feel very privileged representing the BC craft beer scene, just because there's so many amazing breweries here.
Yeah, man.
But thank you. Appreciate it.
You're so welcome. I'm glad we connected. We only connected maybe like a month ago on Instagram, and straight away I really enjoyed the way you present the beers and your company on Instagram, online, and it just I'm fascinated to learn more about it, to hear about the BC scene, and I'm ready to try these beers, bro.
Awesome. Same here.
let's get into the first one. Tell us about this bad boy. Look at that gorgeous label art right there.
Yeah, so this one is called Nova Galactus. It's a cold IPA, so essentially just lager yeast, hoppy. Some people call it India Pale Ales, whatever, India Pale Lagers, or LPL, sorry.
Yeah.
This one goes with Citra hops and Bar Rouge, so it's a French hop that gives it a little bit more kind of like a red fruit notes. This one's quite fresh. It just came off the canning line, I believe, end of last week.
Oh, nice.
It's quite fresh. And then, we found the style. I don't know how popular it is out east, but last year is when we first made this one. And I believe it's our fourth one we've ever done.
Okay.
But being a cold IPA, yeah.
Oh,
our
wow.
fourth beer.
Oh, fourth beer, okay.
Yeah. So it was early on last year. But cold IPAs were pretty new. I think we were we thought we would have been the first in BC to do it, but I think there were two or three maybe that came out just before around the same time. So this one's going to be really, it's just a crispier and drier version of the West Coast IPA, really. You can tell with the rice in there too, giving that crispiness. I should open mine.
Yeah, looking nice and opaque there. Great head. I've only probably had 3 cold IPAs maybe. They're starting to get a little more common, but I feel like this is something that we're going to definitely get into tonight. I definitely feel like the Big C tends to really get into the new styles more, faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, I could start off right on that, and there's I think so, and I love to give credit where it's due, and really, not all, but a lot of these styles, trends, whatever you want to call it, new things that coming into the craft beer, and not just craft beer, but other industries as well. Mm-hmm. We see a lot coming from the West Coast of the U.S., so California, Southern California, right. And then we all know the craft beer scene down there is legendary, and it's been around a long time, kind of the pioneers in North America in a lot of ways. So we see a lot of those trends, and I like to say, those trends usually, I'm not saying a cold IPA did, but usually come from there up the way up west, north, and then across. And I see that in a lot of industries, fashion, whatever, so music, even beer, whatever.
Interesting. I never really thought of it like that, because you're right. The brewed IPA started in Social in San Francisco. Obviously,
San Diego.
Sierra Nevada started all that stuff. All the pale ales, and we're bringing in the West Coast, hoppy kind of IPA, Russian River refining and such. So that's a good point. It's a really good point. So this is great, man. It's interesting to get your head around a style like this, because of exactly what you said. It's kind of like an IPL, but it's kind of like a West Coast, but it's kind of like an East Coast. So it's they're super interesting, and you've got some great hops like Citra and Bar Rouge, right? Yeah.
Bar Rouge, yeah. Unique, which we don't see a lot of it. I don't know about out there, the Bar Rouge, but we don't see much at all. So it's kind of an interesting hop to go with. We're like, let's try it.
Yeah, I love it. This is great. It's got a nice sort of multi profile, which is probably more the lager side, I guess. or is it? No, it's lager yeast.
Mhm.
I always forget lager yeast fermented warm at higher temperatures.
Yeah, really, what you're getting here is just the malt, the kind of the malt breakdown and the bill for it.
Okay.
So yeah, and I should start off. I am not the brewer, right? With
Mm.
Project, so I'll get on the technical questions. I'll try my best, but I do know of them. Most of the stuff, been there brewing and helped, but for the most part, that's Cris Ohama.
Okay.
He's our brewer and one of the co-founders. So I should start with that. There's three of us actually.
Okay.
We added on a fourth one, but myself, Ben, then we got Cris Ohama, which also owns another brewery in Vancouver. Co-owns it. It's called Slow Hand Beer Company, and they focus on lagers. So they're and it's kind of a cool project we're doing, especially for him because he gets to do Slow Hand and focus really on lagers, and then he gets to hit up Hypha Project, and we're definitely more hop focused. Hoppy beers. So you must be, he said it's kind of fun for him.
I can imagine, because otherwise, then you get to really like express different sides. It's a total different brewing process.
Totally.
Yeah, and not have to sort of only do the one thing all the time. Slow Hand are amazing, by the way. I've had a few of their beers.
They're great.
Friend brought me the Hellas recently. I was like, yeah, fire, like killer. I spoke to one of the dudes before. It wasn't Ben then. It was, I guess the other gentleman.
It was Chris and Curtis that own it.
Curtis, that's who I spoke to.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So that's awesome. And then the fourth, I didn't mention the fourth person in the company with Hypha is actually Takasudo. And we brought him on board this year, and he's actually our artist curator and a good friend of mine. We just he's been a big part of this project, and he's got great ideas, and he's such a positive person. If you ever meet this guy, he's like the nicest, most positive person. Everyone says that. Like, he's so amazing. And anyway, so we brought him board, and we're proud to say we're partly artist owned now. So it's kind of cool.
Love that. Excuse my ignorance. RSO is.
Say again?
Artist owned. You said. Okay, that's what you said.
Yeah, artist owned. So we have an artist now that he's actually artist curator, but he did the first actual beer we did, the Inception. So this is Takasudo. He's the artist curator, but he was our first artist as well. Okay.
So we should touch on the art side. I know we're about to get into your story. That's beautiful right there. It's really good. This can is really, really great looking as well. Really cool. You've really high quality stickers as well. I feel like it's got like the metallic parts that kind of like reflect in the light. It's hard to see on camera, but really cool. Just you can tell looking at this and like, damn, this is some thought that's gone into this, as well as it's just high quality. It's really,
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean that's the whole. I mean with art especially, art things you can't really cut corners at all. Like you don't never want with craft beer, but even with art, visual art as well. And I almost forgot the artist. Should highlight this is Sean Carmacker out of I believe he's residing out of Vancouver still. But yeah, Sean Carmacker made this. He does very storyline style kind of art. So if you ever get to see his website or Instagram, you'll see he actually has an art piece that's just a folding book that has pages that goes like I don't know how long, like 20 feet, and just continuous art. There's a story. So that's kind of how he does this thing. And he actually did this in one part. He brought it to us saying, hey, I'm kind of dabbling into augmented reality. You guys want to do something? I'm like, first of all, I was like, what the hell is that? Like, what is augmented? Like, I knew virtual reality, but I'm like, augmented? And he's, and I'm probably not going to explain. I don't know if you could put it.
I'm familiar with it,
yeah, but it's basically you can create anything out of digital world from the physical world. So an example, what he did with this is with this art, there's a QR code. All our beers now have QR codes. It goes to the art page, talking with the artist. But this one specifically, when you hit it or go view it, you actually come up and you have an option to view on Instagram or Facebook. And then when you do that, it creates an augmented reality. Essentially, it's this design, the spaceship and all these, the pieces around it, the diamonds, the perfume, and the lipstick. And it's floating around, and it can move around, and you can take pictures with it within Instagram or Facebook.
That's great.
So,
I'm doing it right now. I'm just taking a look at how it all works. So you tap into it, and then I bring the beer. Okay, wait. Let me see if I can show the camera this, because this is crazy. All right, so I'm in you can see the thing right there, right?
Yeah.
You can kind of
it just mimics the same main parts of the actual art label.
Wow,
Yeah.
dude, that's.
I mean,
crazy.
you can even go down a wormhole with that, where you can put it over the label, the camera,
like match it.
and then something will come alive within that. Like I could show up and start talking about beer. It's just endless. Like so.
It's so dope, bro. Wow, I've never seen anything like this. Yeah, that is crazy. Is it every can or just this one?
Just this one,
Okay.
because he did it for us. It's quite expensive. I mean, if you were to get someone to program that,
Yeah,
but he's just dabbling in it. And yeah, I'd love to say that, and I know I really want to actually play a little bit more with augmented reality in the future. So wouldn't be surprised if you see a Hypha beer with that. Yeah,
that's so sick.
Yeah,
I love it. Honestly, I've never seen that before. That's
cool.
Great. I'm gonna leave that there. Well done, man. That's really, really cool. Yeah, this is fascinating. So let's get into that. And this beer is great. Really, like you said, super fresh, nice and bright. There's no bitterness in this style at all. It's super soft, nice multi profile. It's just a pleasure, like a nice crusher, 7%, but it's going down like 5. It's a beer.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely balanced. That's the one thing I could say is that we take a lot of pride in, having balanced beers. But you're gonna notice as you go through the 4 we have here, we have a little bit more drier take on our styles.
Okay,
so you'll see that. But yeah. But anyway, you were gonna say.
No, I was gonna segue into the next thing, which is just let's get your story, man. I'd like to see how you personally discovered craft beer and how that led to Hypha Project.
Yeah, no, it's actually a really we like to think it's a really fun, organic, how this all came about. And really it started, oh my god, it had to be like 10, 11, maybe 12 years ago.
Wow.
When Ben, one of the business partners in this company, got me into homebrewing. Okay. Really. And we started homebrewing in my garage almost every second week, sometimes every weekend. But we had like a good community of friends coming regularly. And so we'd be doing this garage brew. That was like, and we actually had an old Sabco system. So it was like a keg cut, like 2 kegs cut with the whole system and everything. It was pretty nice for a homebrew. It's pretty nice. Like one of the original, I think, what was his name? Sam from Doghead Fisher had the Sabco when he started.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, same system. It was lent to us by Doan Brothers, which now have their own brewery in Vancouver as well. And so we're brewing this beer. We're brewing beer in my garage, just experimenting, having fun. And it became kind of a, not just for us, a really fun and regular thing, but the community that we lived in Vancouver. People would walk by, and the garage is in the alley, and people kind of walk by and go like, hey, what are you guys doing? And they're like a mad science experiment. People hanging out, and we'd actually invite them in, have a drink of the past brew, and show them what we're doing. Some of them were home brewers, so a lot of them weren't. So we're educating them at the same time, just having a good time. So really, that community aspect was like so fun and organic. And then we just said, hey, one day we would love to have our own brewery. Like I bet a lot of so many home brewers have that dream of, and yeah, it didn't happen until like a year and a half ago. So it's like a big hiatus, and people that were in that kind of crew, that garage brew crew, 2 of them started their own breweries. Now we have the Hypha Project, and it just really came about with the art side. I'm very passionate about the arts, and then Taco Pseudo, that's where he came in. I met him at a live art show in Vancouver. They were doing at Aiden Gallery. It was a really cool underground kind of street urban gallery, and they were doing live art, and we really connected. I saw him, we were talking. He loves craft beer. He's really big in the skiing scene, and we just connected. And so we had a few beers. We said, yeah, it'd be really cool to have a brewery with kind of the art component to it. And you got to remember, this is like a long time ago, before, because collective art, especially out there, is quite well known. That wasn't really a big thing back then. I can't remember how old they are, but I didn't know collective arts then. And so anyway, fast forward, we just said about 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago, we said, hey, Taka, we want to do this. We had Chris Ohama come in. He was a brewer already. He does production brewing for multiple places at Slowhand. And we just put this together, and it was really at the time we didn't think it was the best time, but we did it anyway because we launched really the start of COVID. We're like, we're ready to do this. Let's do it. And we're just like, the whole concept was to, at the beginning especially, every release do one beer a month or every month and a half, limited supply, it's gone, one beer. And then it was like throw an event, like a small party, and keep it kind of like that community feel that we did when we were doing our garage brewing, right? Just kind of the local community, bring them in. And that was the whole concept. But then when, like I said, with COVID, we were like, well, kind of lockdown. We can't really bring people to an event. So we started doing online events, to be honest. So we were bringing in like influencers, people like yourself, locally in BC, Vancouver, artists as well, art scene, and really just bringing them together, having a session kind of like this, just having a lot of fun, talking about the project, talking about the beer, answering questions, Q&A. And here we are now. And so really we just came out of put in a nutshell, we came back from that garage brew. Really, the art scene with Taka just kind of melted together, and then Cris Ohama with the brewing side, and we just came all together, and it just made sense. And it comes from the experience we had when we were home brewing in that garage. It's kind of the pillars: beer, art, and community. If you check out our website, we have it always talk about it. Beer, art, communities are 3 pillars of our company, the project.
That's it.
So
that's great. Yeah, you're right. Collective effort, obviously, out this way, and I think back then they weren't like nationwide, let alone a global, or at least the continent wide. So it sounds like you had the idea around the same time, and I haven't seen it in the same way, with that same what would you want to say, like dedication, I guess, to art with the beer. Like it's like hand in hand, which obviously this is it's the beer and the art are one and equally important, I imagine, from what I'm hearing here.
Totally,
you guys, yeah.
Totally, absolutely.
Which gives you so many opportunities to, like, it just expands everything, because like you said, I mean, now that things are sort of slowly returning so that events are possible again, it brings everything, and you bring people to a different place. I imagine you're doing these events like at galleries and stuff, or did you, like, the ones that you planned and originally that you couldn't do, like, what do those look like?
Yeah, we've done actually. We did one during COVID. It was pretty, it was pretty limited on how we could do it because at the time it was restrictions, but we were allowed to do them. We did it at a really cool. It's called Bow Down actually, but they support local artists. It's kind of an underground feel, urban feel art they have there, and we just threw an event there with skateboard decks, and we really had live artists, and people go around, or they couldn't go around, they had to sit. They can watch the artists in different corners of the room and literally see the art come to life, and then drink the beer, have some some BAOS, Asian cuisine, and it was just a fun event. And we actually did one at we're gonna be drinking this beer at the end, but it's Where Eagles Dare. It's a Bright Eye collab, but we actually went to Kamloops for an event for the launch of this, and created a gallery in their new space, which they haven't even opened up yet, at the brewery. So it's kind of like, we literally showed up there like the day of, and we were like, oh, okay, I guess. And it was nice that we had to switch venues last minute too, and we were like, okay, I guess we're gonna use this space. And it was like, they were still constructing it. We were like, holy shit, like we got work to do. But we cleaned it up, made it look spot on. It was a fun party, like really fun party. And it was like, he's like, man, that looks like I have an art gallery. I'm like, yeah, it does look like an art gallery.
That's sick, man.
So yeah.
It seems to be that would be like an experience that most people who would be going to a brewery or doing something with a brewery probably wouldn't experience typically.
Totally.
That it's just like a whole new environment. And the good thing about that, and this is kind of a question and a statement, I guess, was one of the main things I think that doesn't get spoken about enough is opening the craft beer community to different people who may not be familiar with it, whether that's people who just hadn't stumbled upon it yet, or different backgrounds, ethnicities that are sort of not even in their like peripheral. So that's the only way for craft beer to grow. So if you're doing something at an art gallery, art has a kind of a wider reaching grasp than something like craft beer. So I would imagine the crowds that would turn up to these events weren't the typical craft beer crowd. Is that a fair assessment?
Oh, 100%. 100%. And it's you get a mix, obviously. so we have a great following as well, and really supportive craft beer fans. But for majority, I probably agree. Mostly, it's different kind of demographics, and it's great. It's great for the industry. It's great. It's more. I think it's fun, where you can bring in different people, because there's a definite educational component to it, which is something I think is really valuable and responsibility. From the craft beer scene, to really bring to light what craft beer is, and the beer, the stories, the people, really, when it comes down to it. And people have there's definitely a lot of, what do you call, like, overlapping kind of values there with the art scene. People like putting their heart and soul in it, because at the end of the day, I always say, like, brewers are artists as well. They're artists for sure. It's just a different platform making beer instead of
different canvas.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's there's a lot of similarities there, and I think that's why it works, because both sides can appreciate that, because it's very similar but different.
I love that. That's really cool, man. I didn't really think of it like that. That's even cooler way to look at it. The crowd that say that weren't the typical craft beer crowd, meaning people who are already familiar with it, how's the reception to the beers? If people come because they know about the art side, or they know one of you guys, maybe they're not into beer and they just know that this is some cool art thing. It's just a vibe to go down there. There's, like you said, good people, good energy. How do people respond to the beers, being that you focus mostly on IPAs, even though, like, this style, the styles that you're doing are extraordinarily approachable, that maybe people get scared of hops or whatever. What's the general response from folks like that?
That's a great question, and I think we're I can say, for like where I am in Vancouver, we're blessed that craft beer and those kind of styles are really predominant, to be honest. Right. I'm sure they are everywhere else, but they're like, it's pretty regular to see IPAs everywhere now. Like, it's not like, and everybody's drinking IPAs, so it's just but you do have people that still haven't ventured that way yet, and they're kind of stuck on their lagers and pills. That's fine. It's great beer. I love lagers and pills too. Yeah. But I think it opens their mind, I think, because we do focus a lot on hoppy beers. For the most part, it's mostly hoppy, but it's such a variety of styles, and there are some that we take a lot of pride in it being well balanced, and, like I said, dry. And I think the nice thing about dry beers is it can be a little more approachable. I love sweeter IPAs as well, but it's hard to jump in if you're not used to it, I think. And not only that, but to have a few of them. It's dry beers, you can crush a few of them a lot easier than a little more sweeter IPA, which they just seem a little heavier. So I mean, they're more crushable too. And I think it's a great thing. You get to spend more time drinking and talking and experiencing it with them. Right. So I mean, it kind of goes back also to the educational component. It's just really talking about it, seeing what there's no right or wrong. I tell them, like, you experience what you experience, and I can help you guide that through that if they ask and say, hey, this is what it is, this is what usually it is. But I always ask, what do you think? Like, what do you feel or experience or taste or smell? And it's interesting to see their reactions. Like, it's usually dead on from those people, and it's very, like, one or two words. And I'm like, yeah. Sometimes it's better sometimes. Sometimes it's better sometimes.
Yeah, we overcomplicate it. Being nerds, goddamn us. Okay, that's dope, man. I also find that, I imagine it could be the same, is that, like, typically, I don't know if there's such a thing as, like, the perfect gateway beer, but, like, in my experience with, being around people who might not drink beer, and I'm going to be drinking a New England IPA, and someone, in the pre-COVID times when sharing a glass wasn't frowned upon, I guess, you'd be like, oh, can I take a sip of that? I'm like, yeah, sure. And people are like, oh, wow, this beer? Like, that's what it tastes like. And I find that it's, like, almost an underrated, like, gateway beer, because it is so flavorful. There's not really much about it that's a huge turnoff. You could argue with the West Coast IPA with the pine, the resin, the dank. It's like, what the hell is this? But when you're drinking a New England IPA or something like this cold IPA that's just really, there's nothing bitter about it. They're just really approachable, great mouthfeel. It's just like an interesting experience if you haven't had it before. So
totally,
it's almost an underrated version of a gateway. And I imagine as well, people who attend your events probably come there with an open mind, because they're ready to experience something, being with that visual art. And then oh, now there's another one or two of my senses, three if you look at sight as well, like are all being hit with this beverage. So I imagine
that's a great point.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it. I just imagine it would be people would respond well to that because they're in this. They've come here ready to go. Where it's like maybe if someone's being dragged to a bar or dragged to a brewery because all your friends want to go there, like I don't know, whatever, you know what I mean? Like they might not have and be ready for a new experience. But when you're bringing them to an art gallery or at least an art focused event, you're kind of opening them up already, and that might really be like a really seriously underrated way of introducing people to craft beer.
100%. And you hit the nail on the head there. And really, I think it comes down to, you always hear this cliche. It's not the destination, but the journey. And not only that, but I think the experience makes it, the whole experience makes it a better experience when you put it down. So it's like, yes, you have a beer, you can talk about it, it's approachable, you like it. But you also have the visual. Okay, there's a story behind it. Oh, okay. Well, who's the artist? Oh, who's the QR code? I can check this out, see what the art's about, why they did it, inspiration. It's kind of like, oh, cool. And then you come to the events, like, okay, here's this. Like we can talk, interact, we do the online events. It's just, the more you can build that experience up in an organic and like honest way, like I think that's the whole experience becomes just amazing outcome. So that's the one thing I think why this works well, and we're so proud of it, and we're very passionate, obviously, but it's because there's a lot of things along the way here you can really experience, it's fun. I mean, at the end of the day, it's fun, and if anything, it's a great conversation starter.
And that's I guess that's where the art comes in, and it's beautiful, because the whole package is something that's rare and quite unique in the beer space and maybe in the art space too, because you can, like you said earlier, you're combining two different art forms into one, and they sort of don't really exist without the other. So you've sort of made them dependent in the best possible way, which is that's the value prop on this product. I forgot to ask in the beginning, when did you do your first beer? Like what was the actual timeline as far as like when did the project begin?
Yeah, it's oh god, you're putting me on the spot, but I believe it was it was about so that would be, I mean, I think we released our first beer in March or April of last year. So, almost a year and a half, not a year and a half yet, but almost a year and a half. I mean, we started working on it before that, but actually releasing our first beer was an exceptional. It was a New England style. About a year and 2-3 months.
Okay. That's great. So it's come a long way in a short amount of time as far as like you mentioned. I think you were telling me when we were chatting online, like you brew probably monthly. I think you were saying. So it's like pumping out new things, but you're brewing every month, and there's like a new beer, a new drop a month. Is that because of logistics as far as that there's much more to a beer? Like for you just to get a beer, it's not just like whip up a label. It's like an actual like much more in-depth collaboration with an artist. Is that part of it?
It's a lot. I'll be honest, a lot of some of the parts, but really, I think it's definitely the art side. We feel like we usually have 3 or 4 on deck that are done, like the artwork. So it gives us a little bit of time.
Smart.
I mean, at the same time, we've never hidden this, but we're still like, I guess you could call it contract brewing. We started off that way. But saying that, I mean, we're doing it through Slowhand, the license and everything, which one of our owners of this company owns that company. So it's kind of like, there's a few other brewers like that in the US too, that they have it's called a project within the brewery. Right. So it's not, I guess you could say like a true contract brewing, because one of the owners owns the whole brewery. So, you know what I mean? So, so we're limited a little bit on scheduling for sure, obviously. Saying that, we're actually actively looking right now for our own brick-and-mortar brewery space in BC. So that's, as you know, BC, and I think we were talking earlier, Ontario is probably the most expensive, Toronto, Vancouver area, most expensive property-wise. So we are looking at that. But to answer your question, to be honest, it's we wanted to start this organically, and kind of the idea with the art, you see a lot of this art with these, you have originals, which is original, artwork, this, and you sell it, because that's it. Well, a big thing that's been really popular in the art world has been prints, limited edition prints. There's open and limited. And open just means you keep selling them, there's no limit. And limited is just like you have say 10. Only 10 are printed out, signed, numbered, that's it. So they have more value. They're usually higher quality. So when I try and explain it so that, like, it's kind of like limited edition prints if they're from the art world. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Okay, that makes more sense. I was actually going to ask a couple of things you touched on there. I'm glad you mentioned the brewery, because that was going to be one of my next questions.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get to that, because I'd love to hear like what you sort of plan to do and all that. Do you sell prints of the can art currently, or is that like a future thing?
We do right now. We have some on our website. We have a shop. We sold most of them at events. It's not all of them are not up on the shop yet, but they will be up this next month. Basically, all the ones that were originals, the limited editions of all past labels. So just like you were saying, I think we have like 12, 13, I think we're at 15 now, different labels. But anyway, we have that. And then for the events, we actually have 2 events coming up here in the summer, which I'm super hyped about. But we're going to be selling off the limited edition prints as well there, but also the originals as well. Some of the originals the artists want to sell. So if you're an art collector, you have an opportunity to buy really cool original art from these, British Columbian artists. Very highly talented as well. But going back to the events, super excited because they're kind of similar. They're different, but the 2 of them are going to be, think of it like a summer block party theme.
Cool.
So we're going to have live artists. We're going to have our beer flowing, obviously. We're going to have DJs. And it's going to be kind of a more hip hop, funk, breakbeat kind of theme. And the reason why we went that is it's kind of like block party back in the Brooklyn style.
Of course.
Kind of, going back to the old B-boy, B-girls. And we're going to actually have B-boys, B-girls coming to our events to showcase. So perform as a group, but also have a battle throughout the event. And it's not only are they going to be any B-boys and B-girls, they're going to be from the Red Bull BC 1 series. So these are world champions. I think the world champion is from Vancouver last year, from Red Bull BC 1. So I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but he will be at our event showcase. So it's kind of a block party theme, and it kind of goes with the art as well. And personally, I have a little bit of a passion. Back in the day, I used to be dance and b-boy, so that was kind of like, the more I get excited about it, the more I can bring that in and share that with people. So it's great, I think.
That's sick, man.
Yeah.
I love that a lot. I moved to Canada because I rap. I've been doing it forever. So my brother and I have been making music forever. The theme song for the podcast, my song, whatever. So hearing hip hop, I really love. I feel like it's like fewer and further between when you pair sort of hip hop and beer authentically, and because if you're coming from this and this is like something that you did, that's super cool to me. We also have a non-profit called Link Up where we. The idea is to diversify the craft beer industry. We have some partner brewery in Gatineau, Quebec, and the reason I mentioned that is that as soon as you mentioned that you're doing these type of events with b-boys and DJs and stuff like that, to me my first thought was diversity. Like that's going to introduce new people to your beer primarily, but secondarily to craft beer because they're going to have a positive association with. Hey man, like this is a brewery where people of the culture are sharing their love for the culture. It's not like the breweries that are all white dudes with beards who are putting Biggie on the can or whatever, which is pretty unfortunately common and pretty whack. Now that you're able to actually marry like genuine hip hop culture to the craft beer in a way that doesn't feel fake or forced or inauthentic to people. And that should attract different people to the event, and therefore, the idea is that because craft beer is not going to thrive without diversity. It's just not possible. It is.
Oh, it's like any industry, I think, and you're right. With
Facts.
Craft beer, it's the more you can bring people, but different people into it. I think it just creates a beautiful bouquet, like for the industry. Like it really does. I mean that. Like it really does. So I'm super excited to to have that opportunity and a platform to be able to share that and express that. And I think you kind of said it, like people, customers and people that follow you and fans, they know if you're fake or real, like if you're genuine or not. Like, so it's like, be yourself. Like, and that's the best advice for anyone is just be yourself. And if you're passionate about something, you should be doing something about that. Like, because that's just gonna carry over to everyone else. I did not know you rapped. You probably would appreciate. This artist isn't a rapper, but he's a legend from the hip hop world. And it's actually this label. He did the art. His name is Nelson. Sorry, coming off wrong.
There we go.
Nelson Garcia, which is also known as Dados.
Okay.
Huge b-boy. Used to be a b-boy for the Rascals, the Canadian hip hop band.
Nice.
Yeah. So this guy
he did that. Oh, he did the piece.
He did the artwork. He's an excellent artist as well. He does graphic art as well, and he's a well-known b-boy back in the day. And when Tacker brought him on, I was like, wait a second, I know this name, Dados. And then I looked it up, and I was like, damn, I remember this guy. Like, he used to rock with Rocksteady, like, not with Rocksteady Crew, but do events with them, Mr. Wiggles. And I was just like, get out, this guy is a legend. Like, so I was super excited to have Dados on. And I do the kind of similar thing what you're doing here. I do, it's just through Instagram, it's a little smaller, but I do interviews with all the artists. And it's so fun because, like, every artist is different, and you think it's going to turn out one way, and it just goes left field. And Dados is one of those. Like, I was just starstruck. Like, I was like, this guy's amazing. I was super excited to interview him. But the whole interview just kind of went in a different direction. But it was amazing. But it was just like, we started getting deep about, like, talking about, like, just not beer, not art. And it was really cool, but it was just like, I did not see that coming.
I like that, though. Isn't that the beauty of the medium? Where you just, like, interviewing and you just have, humans having a conversation, and it goes where it goes, and you try to keep it on topic, but you also can't force it. This is an art in and of itself, this art of conversation and recorded conversation, which is arguably more forced than a regular conversation, but it sort of all plays into everything, because when it does take that's where the energy goes. You just follow it, and you're like, yeah, whatever, and it turns out how it turns out. You just don't get too attached to it, and all right, that's what it was. Let's go.
100%.
That's dope, man. I love it.
That's usually the kind of the what do you call it, the little surprises in the cereal box, the gold mines, like the little things you never expected, and they're just like, that was like money. like
couldn't agree more. Yeah, man. You just run with it. I'm looking at the time here. How do you feel about the next one?
Yeah. Let's jump. I think we have on deck here was this one, I believe, the Metatheion.
Yes, that was the one we had.
Yeah, and I'm going to. I'm just going to dump. I don't have many glasses.
Oh, you have enough, yeah.
But yeah, so Metatheion is a really unique one because it is a collaboration with Phantasm.
Okay. Yes, with the.
Oh well, probably no.
Yeah. It's Garage Project in New Zealand. They did they developed it to feels. Yes, and thank you so much. And it tastes like kind of like Nelson Sauvin a little bit.
Exactly. Like Nelson Sauvin, even like Sauvignon. So basically, what it is they freeze dried Sauvignon Blanc grape skins from the Marlborough era of New Zealand. It's a New Zealand company, and they freeze dry and turn it into powder. And now they're selling this to a lot of breweries because it acts like a thiol. It is a thiol precursor, so it gives notes of tropical notes, but also like Sauvignon Blanc as well. Right. And without using hops, using something totally different to create that kind of tropical, especially. It was hard to get. It's not easy. I don't know about up there, but in BC, it's not easy to get. So really, we just reached out and they just kind of checked our website and said, "Hey, we like what you're doing. So we'll give you some. We'll sell you some, a premium price."
Of course.
But we were super excited, and we were like, and our brewer Cris is like, "I'm excited because I've heard a lot of great things. It's different. It's kind of like what we want to do. We don't really want to be following trends in Hypha Project. We always said that, like, not following trends, but really setting trends as much as possible. And some people, when you do that, you're going to push boundaries, and some people might might not like it, but whatever they had experienced it. So this one, this one's I mean, what I can say, the nose gives you a lot of that. I get Sauvignon. I also get tropical.
Yeah, white grapes, definitely tropical fruits.
Yeah, I mean, and once again, it's a nice, crushable, well-balanced, dry IPA. Like it's
nice. Do you know what's almost? This reminds me of a brute IPA because of the dryness.
It is. I've heard people say that actually. I've heard people say that. Yeah.
That's cool.
But once again, going to our brewer, Cris Ohama, he was super pumped to have this, and when he told me about it, I'm like, that's like a no-brainer. He would love to play with it a little more because obviously we never had our hands on it until this one time. So he's like, he was happy with it, really happy with it. But he's like, I want to play with this a little more because it definitely is kind of that brewer kind of. Like he likes to geek out the science of it. And, that's him. That's right up his alley. You know, I can understand that.
I get it. Like it must be a fascinating thing in a world where now, you know, I guess now it's there's so many different hop products, incognito and cryo, and now this specifically. I guess it just like allows you to sort of experiment with flavors and sort of how they interact. Like, what if you use the Phantasm with the T90, or what if it does it interact different with the cryo, or whatever? You know, there's just so many different avenues, different things that can sort of happen with the beer, which comes back to the art side, really. Like, the more
100%.
elements you've got, right, the more you can play with it, the more you can see what's going on. I like it. This is great, man.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, go on. Tell us more about it. I was going to ask about the artwork as well, if you wanted to sort of.
Yeah, well, we should jump right into art because we always. I mean, art is definitely a showcase for us, and so this one is a really cool. Art is through Brother Jopa. Mm-hmm. And Brother Jopa comes from the. Sorry, maybe I'm not hitting up the middle there.
That's all right.
Brother Jopa comes from the ad agency world, but he creates his kind of art. Usually, is about creating artistic and unique calligraphy and fonts. So he's all about like really funky fonts. And he created this one. Sorry, I'm going the wrong way. It's the opposite.
Right? So annoying.
So this one actually, believe it or not, says Metatheion in it, like stacked, going across. And the way he did this art, which I will be putting up on the website soon, he gave me I have some clips already, but he gave me a process how he did this. And the way he did it is he cut out into a nice big piece of wood this design with the calligraphy, and he has the symbols for earth and air on the sides. And what he did is he made it all nice, and then he put it outside, and he got a professional photographer friend to take pictures and video as they took a blowtorch to this, like literally a blowtorch, and just lit it up. So we were watching the video, and I'm like, this looks like too much fun, actually. So this picture is actually a capture of the moment of the artwork being on fire. Like literally a photography of this. He still has the original. It's all charred, as you can imagine. But it was really cool. When he told me he was going to do this, and when I saw the process and the final product, I was really happy to. I was happy with the outcome, but I was just really happy to see the process and how it was done, and like we can share that because we never had anything like that. You know, it was quite unique, I guess.
Definitely, that's crazy. I love that whole concept when people are able to take the physical, like something they physically do, like he carved that into a piece of wood, and then manipulate it in the real world, and then document that and turn it into something digital. I know there's something. I did something similar with that to my last album cover with my friend, funnily enough, who was in Vancouver, Victoria actually, and this to me is the coolest shit ever. It's just like. For that exact reason, it's like it's all cool to have digital art or painted art. All of that is phenomenal, but when you can sort of like carve something and then like light it on fire and then turn it into, I mean, that's sick. That's so cool.
Yeah, man, it's like analog. Bring back analog.
Bro, it's amazing, and it's even cooler because I feel like this is a ton of work for something that people might consider as a fleeting product. As beer, obviously, it's not completely fleeting, but these things sell. Once they sell, they might not be around. One question that comes to mind on that note Are you? Or I mean, obviously, it's only been year and a quarter, year and a half. Are you planning on bringing any of these back, or it's all been sort of one and done thus far, and it's going to stay that way?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's our main concept. We have 2022 planned out already,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, and then looking on to next year. So right now, for the next year, we'll probably bring back maybe 4 ones we've done in the past. We may bring in a core next year as well, one core, and really just kind of refine the brewing of it and to make it a little bit better in our minds.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a plan in the next year. But yeah, so for this year, for 2022, we brought back 4 from last year, but everything else has been
cool.
yeah. So 4 of them were re-released. Ones that we felt like we wanted to re-release, and actually people asked for us, so we kind of took that into account. So yeah, to answer your question, it's never say never. There's a chance some will come back, but not all.
Okay.
So some beers will never come back again. It'll be one and gone. And that's kind of it's a little more work, I guess you could say, but it's kind of the fun aspect is too about it. It's like, oh, what's different? What's new? What's I know. Being a craft beer drinker and fan as well, I know I'm always, I have my go-tos, but I always like, hey, you know what? What's new? I want to try something different. I want to try what's new from this brewery that I know that I have a lot of respect or interested in. That gets me excited when it has my buying habits, take place that way. So I mean, a lot of craft beer drinkers, I feel like that. So we listen to them.
It's all about what's new, and what they haven't tried yet. I hear that from everybody, from brewers, from the stores, from everybody. Yeah. And that's not. It's not. Hey,
sorry, it was a little late. I was going to ask you, what's your fave, like style?
The style of, I would say, if I went to a brewery, my first thing would be to go for a crispy boy. So to go for a lager or a pilsner, that would be the go-to when I walk into it. Yeah, the vibes. I feel like most brewery owners are in that. But then, to be honest, it's the New England IPAs. I mean, obviously it's what most things are, but when they first came out, man, I was obsessed, like crazy obsessed, because you couldn't get it here. I kind of feel like you guys might have been ahead of us out here.
I heard that as well. I agree with that.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, yeah. And it's interesting. You want to hear a little tidbit I heard through people?
Dude, please,
West Coast,
maybe
share with the East Coast.
Yeah.
The Eastern side is there's a lot of great New England breweries here, and I think everyone thought like Superflux is an amazing one. Good friends with the owner Adam, and I think a lot of people thought they were the first. And don't quote me on this, but from what I've heard, there was one brewery you would never guess that did the first kind of like really hazy New England style, like kind of what you see everywhere now. It's popular that was actually in Whitehorse, Yukon.
Really?
Which is surprising. Like I was like, and I actually remember talking to the owner. His name is Marco at Winterlong, and he's like, yeah, he's a big craft beer fan. He would actually go down. This kind of goes to what we were talking about before about trends or upcoming kind of styles. Usually came from California, San Diego, up. He would go down every year to, I believe it's San Diego, and just hit up all these breweries, tap rooms. So they have all the experimental kind of like one-offs. What they're probably, they see their customers like it, and they probably make a seasonal. So he saw this a long time ago, before it became big in BC, and he's like, yeah, I want to make one of these. So he made one called Hazy Sexy Cool, and from what I've heard, I think it was the first one on the west coast of Canada. Like, we call Yukon West Coast. It is West Coast.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't, and I would ask him again, but
I'm gonna look it up while we're talking.
Yeah, it was. I was kind of like, really?
Sick name too.
I never like. Yeah, I was like, really? I was like, and then when he told me why, like he went down there and tried all these beers on the tap room, not non-production, just tap room. So he went down there always at tap rooms and talked to the brewers and talked to the people, like what's the one-offs. And when he got a touch of this style, he's like, oh, this is amazing. And so this is a story he told me. When he told me that, and I was like, okay, that's probably true then, because you were actually doing it, you were experiencing it physically, firsthand experience. So
what's the brewery?
Yeah, it was really cool. For
that beer, do you remember
in Yukon?
Winterlong. It's called Winterlong.
Winterlong. Yeah. So it's Winterlong. They're actually by a ski hill right outside of Whitehorse. Yeah.
I wonder if they say, I'm just kind of like poking around at online here, see if there's any exact. The reason why I'm being very interested in what you're saying is because I had there's a brewery in Cambridge, Ontario called Barncat Artisan Ales, and we had them on.
Heard it.
Barncat. Okay, so they got really known for their haze, but they only started canning not too long ago. They used to only be growlers, and I discovered haze for the first time with Sawdust City's. It's called Juicin'. That was in like the fall of 2016. And
really,
they told me Barncat. So that was my first one that I had. And once again, every side of the country is completely the way that it all goes. We're trying to figure out who was the first, not for any medal, but just out of curiosity, for like you were saying, sort of the nerding out on the history of things. So that was in like the fall. Barncat said they did their first one. I forgot the name of it, but it was in April 2016. He said so. He thinks they did, and he only claimed to be the first one in Ontario. Once again, I don't think anyone's really thinking outside of their general region because it's so independently set up that it's like it's not even fair because no one's communicating and there's no common scene there enough for even there to be some sort of a competition. It's just whoever went first. So that was as far as I got with it. I haven't confirmed that with anyone else. I got that from Barncat. So I don't know. So that's why this is now the next question. Cool. So maybe they had the first one in Ontario. Sweet. Cool. Now I'd like to know like who had the first one in Canada, not just for history's sake, not for anyone's winner. I'm very curious.
You know what? You could probably email Winterlong and ask for Marco, and then ask him, "Hey, when did you make the hazy fish cool?"
I was hoping I'd be able to find it online, but I feel like if it must have been around that time then.
It sounds, you know what, it just kind of going off like gauging when some of the BC ones I know of that came out, it was kind of right around, like almost a little after that, to be honest, that I remember trying them. Because, like, I mean, I go back to Superflex. They really put on BC to put on the map for that style. And they were doing that kind of collaborative brewing out of, God, I can't remember the brewery, but they were called Machine Nails.
Strathcona.
Before that, even.
Before
that, there was an incubator brewery that actually would have like 4 or 5 different breweries brewing out of their brewery. The whole idea was to incubate, like, the brew scene. And before Strathcona, for sure. And oh God, I can't remember the name, and I would love to mention them online. But they were called Machine Nails, and they changed their names to Superflex, and that was, I feel like it was around that time or after, but I don't quote me.
Okay, so they must be in the conversation. I wonder if anyone's like chronicled this, like just for Canadian beer history reasons. I'd just be kind of cool to be like, this was the first brewery in each province to do one overall. Therefore, this was the first one in Canada to give it a crack. Professionally.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Well, BC has their, I think the first Canadian brew pub is Spinnaker's, at Victoria, like Vancouver Island.
Yes, I did hear that.
So they have some history with craft brewing, just being from the West Coast, but you think it would be more East Coast.
Just for this style, yeah.
Yeah, well, just being Europe, having that.
Oh, for beer style? That's a good point, too. I was even thinking New England IPAs, being it's from New England. As far as Canada's concerned, kind of probably like New Brunswick, Quebec, Ontario, arguably are the closest to that direct region. Doesn't mean that would have been the first, but that you might think of, that was the case. It's just an interesting thing because it's like, for any style, you can typically find out when things happen. But something like the New England IPA that's taken over the world, it's strange that like everybody knows the origin of the original IPA with ships and all that shit, but no one really, like, at least I haven't. Maybe it's commonly known in some places. I've been trying to figure it out, like just in conversations casually, just be like, cool to know where it all sort of began. And either way, though, like we were saying offline that BC really does have a phenomenal craft beer scene. Obviously, it's I would say that Quebec / Montreal, Toronto, Ontario, Vancouver, BC have the best, most diverse, most interesting craft beer scenes in Canada. I'd like to hear more about sort of where it's at right now. I asked some theories from friends who are always like they would ask me, my friend Daniel's always like, oh, are you drinking many brewed IPAs? I'm like, there's really none out. He's like, oh yeah, I had this and then this and then this. so he was always getting more brutes, and West Coast IPAs obviously tended to never really leave out there.
Yeah.
And a few other different styles. I mean, I think even like cold. I think he had cold IPAs before I did. Things like that. So yeah, I'd just love to hear sort of like, and this is probably also my curiosity, but also for our listeners and viewers on the East Coast that might not really, hear. Everybody hears great things. No one ever talks shit about, Vancouver's like spoken about with awe as far as the quality and what's really happening out there. But maybe people don't know the nuances of what's really popping, what's happening out there. Like, yeah, if you can just speak to that and sort of what's going on in the West.
Yeah, no, it's well. First of all, I will say, for Eastern Canada, they're making some amazing beers, and they have a really great tradition. I have to say that. And you hit the nail on the head once again, talking about especially Quebec. I mean, one of my favorite breweries from Quebec is a few of them, but like Deux de Ciel, Donham, Brasserie Donham. There's tons of amazing breweries, but those ones are really gravitated for. And then Ontario really opened up and exploded, obviously with Bellwoods. So many. I mean, and it's happening all across Canada. Like you're seeing Alberta. I mean, they just won Brewery of the Year establishment, the Canadian Brewing Awards.
They did.
Yeah, and there's a lot of Alberta breweries that gained a lot of medals this last year at the Canadian Brewing Awards. And a lot of people didn't realize, just kind of talking about like different parts of Canada, like the homebrew scene. I'm actually from Alberta originally, so I can talk about this. And I've been in BC for over 12 years, but the homebrew scene, even though I wasn't a homebrewer, I knew it was pretty solid and really strong back in the day. Like we're talking like 15, 20 years ago. And I remember the Yeast Wranglers. I actually remember them hearing about this homebrew club called the Yeast Wranglers. So I'm not surprised why Alberta blew up. And it was because of limitations. Also, they couldn't blow up because they had restrictions on how big to be as a brewery, a craft brewery. So you almost had to be like production big brewery to even get a license. So it was really limited until they opened that up a few years ago. So you're seeing all these, great breweries, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. So, I mean, everyone's making great breweries. I think there's really excellent breweries out there. And I have a lot of respect for the Eastern, especially around the Quebec scene. It seems a lot more richer and, a lot of tradition there. So I have a lot of respect for that. And going to BC, I came here into BC before it really blew up. And then the craft beer scene just exploded maybe 8-9 years ago, around there, 8-9 years ago. It just really exploded, and there's tons of breweries opening up. I can't even keep track of what breweries are. I'm like, that's a brewery. I'm like, okay, great. I've never heard of them. So it's great. We're seeing colleges now adopt this. Not even in BC, but like brewing courses and degrees, which is making it more legit, more refined and educational, which is excellent, I think, for the industry. Speaking of styles, I mean, yeah, IPAs rule. I mean, hazies, New Englands, whatever you want to call them, it's massive. It's probably number one.
Okay.
I'm seeing a big comeback with West Coast IPAs. It never died, but it definitely took a back seat, especially with New England's hanging out and sours even, where you're seeing West Coast make a resurge. And I love West Coast IPAs. Like, it's I almost miss it. Like, and I love the New England hazies, but I'm like, kind of miss the West Coast. So yeah, so it's coming back. Sours have always been pretty predominant here and popular. Barrel aged, I think, everywhere. Cold IPAs, you'd be interested. Like lagers in general are making they're making a big push, especially this last year. We're seeing a lot of breweries do craft lagers, not just like regular, like here's a lager. They're experimenting and pushing the boundaries and making different styles of lagers that you probably don't usually see. So it's pretty exciting. I think it's. I remember talking to Chris, like we were talking at Slowhand, our brewer, when they started Slowhand. I was like, and their focus was lagers, and this was like a few years ago, and I was like, I think you guys are onto something. I kind of think you're a little early, but you're onto something. Yeah. Like, but they're like, I think they're killing it now because of that. Like, they're just positioning themselves. Yeah, lagers. And one brewery I really admire out of Toronto, you probably know because I know you got a place there, and it's really close to you. Is Godspeed, man? They're making amazing lagers.
My brother lives 50 meters from them, very conveniently. So whenever I go see him, I always swing by and grab a bunch, and they're always like in short cans, which I love. So you can they're cheaper, so you can just like stock up, and it's like world class lagers you can just keep in the fridge. And I'm curious if this happened in BC. So Godspeed is a fantastic example. There was this, I think maybe 2018, 2019, just pre-COVID. There was sort of like I think the Czech government were like sending brewers to Prague and to Pilsen and everything, and doing like basic on these like, I don't know, history tour things where they got to go and just like soak it all up. And now we're seeing the results of all of that in both Ontario and Quebec, where brewers are like Godspeed is one of the prime examples. Another one's called Silo here in Montreal. That do it exceptionally well, like these Czech style beers that are authentic, like triple decoction, like, you know, some of them are even aging them in oak or foeders, just going nuts with Czech style stuff, which I find really interesting. And I my guess, this is kind of a bit of a theory after speaking to different people, it sounds like this Czech government grant thing that they were doing was contributing to that. Did that happen out west at all? Like, has there been this influx of Czech style crispies?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like going down like Lager Lane, as I call it. That's one that's right at the front for especially the craft beer scene. I think is kind of that Czech style. Yeah, there's not a lot. We're seeing, I wouldn't say it's a lot, but it's definitely ones they're doing the Czech style. But also we're seeing Italian pilsners quite a bit. A lot of Italian pilsners came out, but the Czech, it's I really, I mean, to be honest, it's my kind of like you said, when you go to a brewery, if they have a Czech lager, that's the first one I try. I'm just like, yeah, I'll try it.
And if it's a Luca,
yeah. But yeah, no, it's Godspeed. And to be honest, Slowhand makes excellent Czech lager as well. Check it out if you haven't tried it. It's really good.
I had their Hellas lager recently. My friends just sent me that. So like last week or the week before, I had that, and it was the first time in forever I'd had Slowhand.
Yeah.
I swear I must have tried it. It's exceptional stuff.
Svetli,
yeah, it's Svetli Lizak.
Right.
Yeah, that's the proper chilled Czech stuff. Okay, so the Slowhand are doing it. So Slowhand sound like they're kind of maybe the Godspeed of Van. Is that fair?
I mean,
at least in the approach.
I don't like comparing it to.
I agree with that.
But
in the approach to what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
they're
really
definitely
lager heavy.
Totally. I mean, they took that on. Like, hey, we want to do lagers and do them well, and I think they're doing that. People are starting to see that.
Yeah.
It's always hard. Is like I always find like as a brewer or really educated craft beer fan, you understand the value of lagers in general, and not how hard they're actually doing. Like, you can't mask as much with like a bigger beer or hoppier beer imperfections. Not only that, it takes longer, so it costs more. And then teaching that to your customer, like your mass customers, the customers that there's craft beer fans that get it, but there's only a handful of those that really are passionate. People that are gonna it's like educating them about lagers and why it's price point and what it is and why it's it's a skill and an art, like, to make a lager. It's not. I think people always think if they're not as educated, they think of it like a macro, like Canadian Bud.
Yeah.
They don't get it. But it's kind of like, but it's a great segue. It's a great segue into the craft beer scene for those people. So I think that's a huge opening for the industry right there. You're going to bring in so many people because you're making more approachable beers.
Yeah. I think I think that's interesting. I think between I would hope that those type of really high quality craft lagers would be the ones that a Bud drinker would drink that and be like, oh wow, this is what this is supposed to taste like. Okay, and then come through. I wanted to actually ask, since we're talking about this on all the West Coast, for Hypha, the styles that you've done in the last year and a half, Has it exclusively been IPAs? What other things have you done? Have you done a West Coast? Will you do a West Coast? What's it look like, and what is it? Has it looked like, and what are you sort of maybe planning to do in the future?
Yeah, and that's the fun part of it, I think, as well. Going to the beers. I mean, we in the past we've obviously done a lot of. We try not to pigeonhole specifically. Hey, this is in New England. This is a West Coast. We do it sometimes in description, but we call it an IPA most of the time.
Okay.
It's like, hey, this IPA, and then maybe in the description get a little more technical. So we've done. I mean, the one we were talking about right here, the Hopsquatch with Dados. That's a tribute to the West Coast. This is a different take on it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a little biscuit. It's quite biscuity. It's definitely has a little bit of sweetness to it. But yeah, it's very West Coast. I mean, we've done mostly New England styles. We did this one that was kind of cool. It was amazing. I don't know. It's called Sono-Psychotic. It's a collab with Boombox Brewing out of Vancouver. They're really well known for their IPA.
Sick art.
Oh man, this is Takasudo once again, and it's collaboration artwork too. So
yeah,
Takasudo and Jace Kim collaborated on this. So Jace did most of the skull, Taka did all this kind of fluorescent kind of.
I love that. I don't know. That's ill to me. That's so cool.
Yeah. So this one is a double farmhouse double IPA. So that was a pretty unique one as well. Yeah, it's IPA, but it's farmhouse. It's definitely got a little bit of peppery Belgian-y notes to it. We did our Deliberation. This is a dry hop sour.
That's cool. Oh, you did like a full sour.
Yeah. So this was Paige Bowman, the artist, but the sour is
very cool.
It was half done. So half of it was kettle sour and half of it wasn't. So it's a little bit more approachable. So you definitely get sour notes, but it's not like really acidic and punching in your jowls. So this one, this was a dry hop sour. For the most part, IPAs. Just looking around, they're pretty well IPAs. I have most of the cans here, but we are planning to do some micro IPAs, so like a little session, whatever you want to call it.
2-3% or something.
Yeah, exactly. And then we are planning to do a stout in the winter.
Nice.
Some pale ale. So yeah, definitely more. We're still staying close to our brand and our identity, especially at the beginning for the first 3 years, which is really like well-balanced, dry, hoppy beers. So for the most part, yeah, we will be doing that for the next bit. But once we get a little more of a foundation, I think we'll venture a little bit more with the art and even with the beer, to be honest.
That's sick, man. Yeah, I was just sort of curious, since we're talking about the scene, to see sort of, being that your part, obviously you probably would stay away from Crispies, being that your partner kind of already has that side covered. And I imagine for this project, it would sort of focus more on that. And I don't know, there's something really cool about that too, man. Like that this is what this brand represents, and people who want a Hypha beer know they're going to get art, this sort of really high level art meets beer, and it's going to be mostly hoppy, but it's in the realm of if you're doing mostly IPAs, even though it sounds like you've done quite a decent variant of IPAs, doing something like a stout isn't weird, because the same people who want that would be pretty interested in something like that come winter. So
totally.
I love that. That's really cool. It's always interesting to sort of see where where things can go that makes sense. It's obvious. Yeah, I like that. I know I like it when it's sort of like the brand, like this is what this brand's for, and I think it just keeps it sort of like streamlined, and it's sort of like, instead of a bit of everything, you're not going to be dropping the amber or wheat or some other weird shit. Like it's just like, this is what we do. This is what we're about. People know what to expect, and
100%.
I love that a lot. This is beautiful.
I think that's kind of...
Yeah,
sorry,
no, please.
No, I was just going to touch on your point. Like, it's like, I remember talking to a mentor in business, and he's like, don't try to be everything. Just be the best at this and make it really long. Like, be the best at it. Just kill it. So that's where you stick out. And I was like, yeah, of course.
He's not wrong. That's a bar. Like, that's like, I've learned that more. We have a business, a social media agency, and we used to sort of just deal with anything. And then we kind of like streamlined, and things sort of changed for us when we streamlined. And it's sort of like, I guess that's what it is. Like, I've read a lot of case studies in business and different things where it's like, there was the one that I remember, that brand, I think it's called Gymshark or something. They're like a clothing brand for gym. I actually not super familiar, but apparently they only made clothes for people to wear to the gym, and that's all they cared about. Then all of a sudden, it became like a Lululemon, and people just wear that shit out because it's become fire, like they become cool or something.
I have heard of it actually. Now that you say it, I've seen it on Instagram.
There you go. But I think that's how they got big, because they did.
Yeah.
Excuse me. They stuck to their niche really strongly,
Yeah.
and then because they were so good at their niche, it became something else.
Totally.
And they didn't change as their consumer changed the way they use the product. But you stay good, really niche. And I feel like the way that the world is, with more people doing more things, like niching is the only way to really know. The more hyper specific you can be, the better. And that only paints that brand. That when people see Hypha, they know that, okay, well, this is art meets beer, and it's mostly hoppy beer. There might be a couple other things, but that's what it is. It's like elevated taste with art and elevated taste with beer, and it's an experience, and they have these sick events, and that's what it is. And they don't have never getting it twisted. Like even when you have the space, which I want to talk about in a sec, what your plans are. Looking at the time again, it always feels like I'm rushing it, so I apologize.
It's all good.
Time for that bad boy.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk? I'm going to run and grab it. Do you want to? I'm going to pull out this so I can hear you. I'll be back in like. Talk about it for a second. Let people know what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
2 seconds.
100%. So this is the Synchrosentient. This is actually IPA, New England IPA. And this one actually, with the artist is Amanda. Where is she? Amanda Smart. She's actually a tattoo artist in Gastown, specifically Vancouver. And this one, for the art itself, we're really excited for it because it was the first artist that used oil painting as a medium. So this is all oil painting actually, and I keep on going the wrong way here. But I found this came out amazing, with the 3 women with tattoos on their face. We can go in more a bit on the website. We talk about the artist definition of it. And this one is, like I said, New England with Strata and Citra hops. And you're going to get like strawberry, passion fruit, stone fruit, and little citrus notes coming through. Yeah. It's, I can pour it and show you.
That sounds awesome.
So that one, a little bit of haze there, kind of straw looking. Yeah. Lots of foam. Healthy proteins in that one. Yeah.
That is really, really.
Yeah, I was saying the oil painting. I was really excited to have an artist do an oil painting as a medium.
So cool.
She nailed it. Amanda nailed it. And if you're ever in Vancouver and you want a surrealism kind of tattoo, like she's an amazing tattoo artist as well. That's her main profession. Yeah.
That's sick. Something about so she painted this and does tats.
Exactly. I mean, she said it like she just likes oil paintings, but she does tattoos. That's her main job. And you get that through the kind of like almost tattoo looking on the faces of the 3 women.
I was gonna say, like, I can kind of like it almost feels like someone who just knows too much about tats, really.
Yeah. But Amanda Smart, check her out if you really want a surrealism, like kind of surrealistic kind of tattoo. Amazing.
Yeah, I honestly like my guy is all in Australia. Thank you. And so I haven't been back for way too long. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I do have to find. I just known this guy since he was like 12, so I was like trying to sort of continue to work, but I don't know how practical it is, being that I live over here. So I thought I need to find someone, but I want like his stuff is really like, I don't know if you call it surreal, but just like the super high quality. Like if he had a photo, he can replicate the photo as far as the quality. I mean, not necessarily what he did for me, but that's the level of skill that he has. So I was like looking for someone that could do that. Maybe even BC is too far, but
I always find a lot of respect and like I was always interested in tattoo artists, and that's an event we're thinking of doing in the future, a tattoo art event.
Okay, how that work?
Should be fun, I think. Well, we haven't done it yet, but we're planning that in the next year.
Okay.
I think it'd be a lot of fun. There's a lot of, I mean, everywhere, but in Vancouver, there's a lot of talented tattoo artists. But yeah, it's just to be able to transform that concept of art onto skin. It's not an easy task. Just talking to them, like it's totally different, obviously, than a canvas piece of sheet. You know,
total different, man. Total different vibe. And this just even like I know there's like a lot of them can like freestyle stuff as well, which is kind of crazy to me because I'm like, there's no room for error there, man. Like you gotta, it's kind of almost scary. I don't know if I'd be able to be comfortable doing that, but yeah, it's a total different skill set. But I love when I think some of the most skilled tattoo artists are able to do stuff like this, to paint or draw at such a high quality, like a high level. It's it's super cool skill set. I love it.
Yeah. I find when we haven't done a ton of events, but the events we have done, we find this artwork gets probably the most like, hey, I want that. Like seriously.
I can see
a lot of people actually. Yeah.
Do they, as far as the prints? I imagine these prints would like fly.
It's we just released them a month and a half ago. We have some left. I mean, they flew at the event, a good chunk of them. The original already sold, so that's gone, which is great because the artists make a good chunk of that.
Okay.
And it's, at the end of the day, if we can support an artist, I'm happy to do that. That's kind of, you can probably get now like kind of the focal point. Yeah, the beer is definitely
great,
important, but the art is takes the center stage.
Completely understand, and it's important though. Like that's it's the key component. It feels to me that I would say from the outside, I would say it feels equal. Like obviously, what's in the can, if it's not great, then that's going to be a problem. But it feels like you've really spent. All the beers are very thoughtful, and the artwork is equally so. I was going to say though, I find it interesting, and this is probably maybe ignorance on my part. Like, wouldn't you want to keep the originals of these for like the brick-and-mortar brewery where you're going there, or is this you don't? It's not that big a deal. You can have it print, and you might as well get the artist some money type of thing.
I would love the originals, but it's interesting the way we set it up. Not to go into the weeds with the artists, but we pay. So it's different than a lot of other breweries. There's breweries out there that use art, like local artists, worldwide artists for their labels, and we've already named one, but there's more than one out there. But the one thing I hear from the artists that we work with, they're like, they've worked with these other breweries. They're like, we like what you guys do because you pick us. It's not like they have to submit all this art and then they get picked if they created it or it's an old one. We look at their portfolio and we actually have Taka once again. He's a curator for the artist, and he makes a short list and we pick it. And really, the artist is creating an original artwork for us, for Hypha specifically. And so it's not something they've done before. We pay them pretty handsomely up front. We get the rights to use it for label and down the road merchandise, so prints, t-shirts, hats. But the artist owns the artwork, and that was a key component because, once again, like leaning on Taka being an artist, going through all this, and he's done like amazing stuff with big companies like Prior Snowboards, other ski companies worldwide, and he's like, if the artist can keep their artwork and own it, that's really important. So we're like, okay, let's let the artist keep their artwork. It's theirs. They can do whatever they want with it. We ask, we're going to plan a year-end gala with Hypha. If you do have it, or if you can have the original artwork, we'd love to showcase it. And we can even sell it for you if you want, if you haven't sold it. But we want, if you can, great. If not, we can do a print or whatever. So yeah, to answer that question, I mean, it's the artists own it and they keep it, and it's and they're creating unique artwork for our Hypha project. So it's great in a lot of ways. So both ways, everyone's happy.
Okay, that makes sense. I guess it's kind of cool as well to know that there's like fans in the community who have that original artwork on their wall, as opposed to just sort of sitting in a brewery. Like, it's kind of cool that like it's out there, and you could have a print of everything in there, and it makes no difference.
Yeah,
it's the print of the original.
I would love the originals.
Yeah,
I love all the artists, and I love the originals.
Put the money up and just grab that. Yeah, I love that. we were talking earlier about the possibility of a physical space. Um, you know, do you have like a timeline for that? And that aside, what were you thinking? Like, what's the kind of grand vision for Hypha physical space?
Yeah, that's a great question because a lot of things go into that. But timeline, excuse me. I mean, if we found the place that made sense and worked right away, we'd do it right away.
Okay.
We're in no rush, and I think we're lucky. We have that um, situation we're in. We can do that and take our time. So we want the perfect fit. Um, it's interesting. Like there's four of us, and all of us like the outdoors. Three of us love skiing and snowboarding in the backcountry and just in the West Coast. And so we were like, the art kind of component, you naturally would think kind of urban city, brick and mortar brewery.
Yeah.
Like, it makes sense naturally, I think. But we're open to the idea of being a more remote, kind of like
Destination.
somewhere maybe like Whistler, Pemberton, it's like a kind of lifestyle, you know what I mean?
Right.
Lifestyle. I think what's important there is to have, obviously, in an ideal world, we would love space where we could throw like an event as well. So not just have a brewery, but have a space to do an outdoor event with maybe even music and art. That would be like, big picture Northern Star if we could do it. And then have a place where we can, support our lifestyles. So we don't know yet. So it's kind of like,
right.
If everybody knows a good space out there that has all that, hit me up.
Holla.
At the right price.
At the right price.
But yeah, exactly. So I mean, it could go either way. It could be somewhere remote in, like I said, Whistler, Pemberton, lifestyle kind of thing, or it could be urban downtown, like somewhere kind of like a gas town, whatever. Like it could be that. I think what we will have, it would be nice to have some space for event space, but also it would be nice to have some way incorporate a studio gallery, obviously with the artists. And in an ideal world, if we could make it work, have a resident artist within the space.
Okay. What would that entail?
Like switching through, like a revolving door.
Okay, so just all of their work, like maybe 1 month is this artist, and all of their work is there.
Yeah, or maybe like like a resident space being like probably more realistically like a quarter or half year, so they can stay there and work on this stuff, like a studio space.
Oh, they actually make it there. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, like use it as a studio space where they can rotate through. Like we bring in different Canadian artists, maybe even from different parts of Canada, or potentially, it could be an opportunity to bring in artists from around the world to have like a short stay. Obviously it would be valuable for them. It would probably be subsidized for them, so it would be not expensive, and it'd be a cool little project if we had the brewery to have that kind of space as well.
Yeah,
I think so. That's an ideal world.
That's dope. I mean, I kind of feel like for you and for what the brand is, it would almost be odd if you didn't have that space. So I can definitely align with that. That would be pretty important for you guys to have that. I know
100%.
that. I wonder if that my friend lives near that Yeast Van district, like the East Vancouver beer sort of thing. Is that kind of like, this is more like, I don't actually know, like, is that kind of like just tapped out and it's like too much? Because it seems like this huge concentrate, like it's in a pretty insane concentration, if I'm not mistaken, like 20 plus breweries, yeah, maybe more.
There's a lot. Vancouver's pretty small. There's a lot of people, but it's a small space. So I wouldn't say it's tapped. It's possible. It's just, man, property is so expensive right now. It's like you were talking about Toronto. Like Toronto and Vancouver are the most expensive in Canada. So you kind of know what I'm talking about.
Bro, yeah. You guys are worse. You guys are by far the highest. Yeah, we wanted to move to Toronto, and we looked at the prices. Like, okay, not really gonna happen. So I completely understand. It's I imagine that there's probably and particularly for commercial space, then even you'd be renting, but the rent must just be like crazy.
It's expensive. Like we've looked everywhere, and it's expensive. It's not like a hard no, but it's like
It has
It's
to
like
make sense.
it has to make sense. And at the end of the day, it's like and the one thing I value with all of us are involved is we want to we want to have the space, we want to do a great job of it, but we want to have a lifestyle thing with it. Like
Right.
so either being in the city somehow, being a lifestyle thing, or outside the city, we want to have a component. It's not just like making beer and art. It's like what else, we want to live and breathe it, so we want to have a little bit more of our lifestyle with it. So it's it's exciting. It doesn't make the job easier finding a space, but
No.
it's gonna happen. I feel it's gonna happen.
I love that. That's the vibes. Are you looking to make it your full-time thing? I imagine right now it's probably not, being that if you do one beer a month, it's probably not a full-time thing. Are you looking? It's not a full-time. Are you looking to for that to happen?
100%. Definitely want to make. I mean, if we get our own brewery, that'd be a full-time thing. We'd probably be pumping out more beers, maybe more of a higher rate, so more than once a month. Probably have introduce probably more cores, but we don't want to get away from our what got us there. Being kind of what's different, showcasing art and different, just playing around with styles, even as much as we can, and being able to sell that and share that with everyone. Really, at the end of the day, so I think a tap room is important. Like, it doesn't have to be big, but to have that tap room, you get loyal customers, people that really care, passionate what you're doing, but also it's kind of it's also a mutual thing. Like, you're getting a lot of, they're like your litmus paper for like what they like and what they don't like. It's they're probably your best customer if they're always coming there every week. I'm sure.
Yeah.
So
get a bit of a gauge on where everyone's feeling about the beers. You can do the test batches and see what's hitting and experiment a little bit. And if something works, you can bring it in as like a can thing and so on and so forth. Yeah, it always seems to be the goal. Like, I feel like contracting, at least out here, it used to. I feel like I haven't heard anyone talk shit about it for a while, but it used to be like people used to get really mad about contracting for a while, like back in Ontario. And I always thought it was pretty absurd, because I feel like beer people do forget that beer is a business, and sometimes wouldn't it be smart to test your brand in the market and get it sort of known, and then it's like a classic success story where you sort of just slowly roll it out and keep doing more and get those contracts and so on and so forth with licensees and distribution, and then when you're able to create that space that you've really been wanting to do the whole time, you've already got all of these things in place, you've got brand recognition, rather than dropping, hey, I'm going to put $2 million on this brewery right now, let's see if it works. I don't know, it's almost like if you look at it on paper, it's technically a smarter approach to the business of craft beer.
It is, and we had the same thing out here with like contract brewing. There's some breweries were just totally against it, and some were like totally for it. And it's like anywhere. I get it. I think it comes down to like, it's two things. I think, like, if you're genuine about, like, it's just a different way to market. Right. And if you, like you said, like, it's a little bit less risk. And I have a lot of understanding and compassion for those people that have started off right off the bat buying a brewery and doing it, because they paved the road, and I have a lot of respect. I respect that. It's just a different way of doing it. I think when you have beer companies starting up being a contract brewer, and that's their only goal, just be like really a marketing company, a sales company, then I would say, maybe that kind of like, isn't very genuine. It doesn't really adhere to maybe the craft brewing scene. It's just kind of like, give me a quick buck and out kind of thing. Then I can get that. Yeah. But it really, depends how you're doing it and what your intentions are. Like, I know this is, people know us. This is genuine. Like, we're passionate, and we want to make a go of this. And it's just a different way of doing it. So I know what you're saying, and I respect that from the other side. But it's just a different way of doing it, especially if you're in our shoes. I think we have a lot of,
yeah. No, we've been standing up aggressively for contract brewing for years. When people do it, kind of just pisses me off, because I just feel like I understand, like, craft beer is a hobby. It's this passion for people, and they take it real seriously. And like, obviously you and I both do as well. But I think these people do really forget. The people who are fans are just drinkers. They don't really, maybe they don't own a business and don't really think, because I look at craft beer first and foremost, I'm like, oh, how does this work? How's the money flow? How does things blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, it's, then people get kind of caught up in those smaller things and they don't really understand the value that it contributes. There's so many contract brewers I can even think of off the top of my head in between Ontario and Quebec that are success stories. They went from contracting full time and now they have their space finally, and it works.
100%.
And they're killing it because they already had like market share from when they were contracting, and they already had relationships, and they already had distro, and they already had licensees, and all of these like 300 things. Like, all right, so off the rip, as soon as they start brewing, they don't have to go and send salespeople out to try and figure it out. They've already got these things plug and play, and they're already asking for the products. You just got to dial it in. So it's, and it's, we used to talk about it a lot back in the day, like a few years ago. I feel like every other episode we were talking about it because it was such this obsession with it, which to me I just always found it so ridiculous. But I hadn't even really thought about it for a while. But I think it's dope that this concept is cool because this is something a little more unique, and you've done a proof of concept now for pushing a year and a half. That you've been able to marry high level art and beer and events and diversity, which is something that I'm super passionate about. My partner and I and our partners in the non-profit are passionate about. I think there's almost basically nothing more important than people can do in beer. And then you're able to, whatever that looks like for you guys, whatever the physical space ends up being, it'll be what it's meant to be. And you take it from there. But the fact I've seen stuff like this happen with other people, where people it sounds like you've got like a bit of a movement behind all the things that you're doing. Where with like passionate followers, different communities involved, meaning the artists, physically like painters, tattoo artists, graffiti artists, like all of the digital artists doing AR, like all of these crazy different things. It's fascinating, man. I think it's really, really dope the way you're approaching it. It's cool. It's
fun. So I appreciate you noticing that. It's been a wild ride, and it's interesting. We're kind of going back to like I always going back to the three pillars of our company is like being beer, art, community, and the community part's the one that gets me really excited because that's kind of really open ended and can be many things. Like we already talked about, like really getting to the kind of the grassroots of like really interacting with the people that really are the influencers, the craft beer influencers, the art influencers, and just really connecting with them. I think it's just having that opportunity to connect to them from a human level, especially. And I think, in hindsight, thinking of launching in COVID was shit, sorry, but it was actually a good thing as well, because it really lended nice to advantage to what we were trying to do, is really connect with people. And I think that people really needed that and wanted that during that time. Like it was so
distant.
So it was so regulated, and it was really hard for a lot of people, and we that's what we wanted. We wanted right away, so we dove into that. But the community aspect is just like I just have so much fun with it, and like we've done some amazing things already, and I see like what we can do is just being endless. And there's like an example we did Ikigai. I going back to kind of old beers, but we did this beer. Casey Hall, he's an Indigenous artist out of Bella in BC, and he actually is a form line traditional Indigenous artist, but he blends it with graffiti, so he's kind of have a hip hop background as well. So he takes kind of two kind of things and combines them, and I love the art he did, and we said, hey, we want to give back somehow, and we were talking about how can we give back to the community, and we were a little concerned about tying it into beer sales with Indigenous support, to be honest, because there's some issues around that. And so we were like, okay, so let's focus more about the art, not the beer. So we actually did a limited edition run. I think we did 50 of actually high-end like gallery grade silk screen prints of this, and sold it for a pretty good premium. But we gave some to the artists. We kept a small amount, and we gave a big chunk of it actually to it's called Anya, Urban Native Youth Association. It's in downtown Vancouver, or outside of downtown Vancouver, but it's in Vancouver. It's a youth center for Indigenous people, and Casey Hall is Indigenous. He actually was part of that program, like showing art, how to do graffiti with these young Indigenous children or youths. And it was actually funny when he mentioned it. He wanted to do this for them. I was like, really, Anya? So kind of like tying back my past life, I used to be a teacher. So I used to be a teacher in Alberta, and when I moved to Vancouver, I was a teacher here. And I did temporary jobs when I was in Vancouver, just starting up, and one of them was with Indigenous youth program, which Anya was tied with. So it was kind of a connection. I did that for like, I don't know, a few weeks. It was a contract, and I really enjoyed it. It was different take on teaching, and different type of people, and just a system. But I knew when I found out they connected, I was like, this is hilarious. Like, this is awesome. And yes, I want to give back. So we did that from the print cells. We worked with Latimer Gallery, which is a really well-known gallery close to Granville Island. And they helped us sell these prints. And we did a signing with the artist. And I think it was like 60% of the money we made from it went towards Anya. They got plans to build a new youth center in the next while. It's just a small amount, but it's kind of give back to that. So that's kind of the community initiatives and things that gets me excited. And it's like, I always look at it as like, it's really open. It can be anything you want it to be, as long as it connects and really has value to the community.
I love that.
So,
I think that's super key, and it's really thoughtful. It's like a thoughtful approach, organic and authentic. And I think that's really what, I don't know, I feel like that makes the difference though. We had the same thing with Linka. We were originally going to just target it at Black and Indigenous people to help bring into craft beer, and we spoke with some elders there's an Indigenous res here called Kanawaki, and we spoke with some people out there, and it seemed a little like a tough thing to sort of want to really proactively go and push this alcohol industry on a group of people who, like you said, had historically had some dealings with all of this. So we sort of like, let's just make it by POC for everybody who isn't white. That's really who we're trying to attract, and that made sense. So it came from a thoughtful perspective after consulting with the community, and it sounds like you did the same thing where you'd already sort of worked with them. There's an authentic connection with the artist, and also with hip hop, which ties it back into other things that you're doing as well. And like, I don't know, that's cool. That just feels all like super organic and just kind of like seamless.
It seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah. But just like you weren't forcing any of this stuff. Yeah, it's a no-brainer for sure. And the no-brainer is the easy part, but it's also like that's the one thing I think with beer and anything that isn't, that's sort of outside of that you can. Excuse me. I guess going to be cautious and just making sure everything's authentic. I can tell, like, just the energy that you're giving off. I can tell you mean that you really care about beer, you care about art, and everything feels like super authentic. And I think that's, I don't know, I think that's like let's say a rarer trait these days. But you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's when you recognize that authenticity in a product or in a brand or in people who run the thing, it's cool, and I think people gravitate towards that. So I imagine that is definitely sort of playing a maybe subtler part in the success of the brand and what's really been happening so far. As people can feel that, and they come to the event and they want to be involved in something that's just dope and cool and just makes sense.
And I agree with you. And the other side of that, like being on this side, is like that's a lot easier when you can be just yourself and what you're really share what you're passionate about. That's like, it's not hard. And the hard part is like convincing that and doing it with other people, like out in the community. But if you believe in it and you're truly passionate about it, that's easy. Like that's just a part of sharing who you are, right? Sharing your experience and who you are. So that's the easy part. It's like how do you engage that with other people? How do you activate that? I think that's the challenge.
How do you?
Through art, through art and events. It's a great icebreaker. I always say, like, it's people always say is art's what you think it is, right? It's like, okay, what do you think about it? Like, sure, whatever. And it's art has so much, and it's just like beer. Like it has so much a big diversity. I mean, you're talking about diversity of like just in general. It's like beer has that, art has that. Like, it's beautiful that way. It'll pull those other things that, you're seeing that come to the forefront right in the last like few years, like with inclusion and diversity, which is great. And it's always been an I don't want to say issue, but it's always been out there where it should, like, I'm part Japanese, so grew up. I've seen racism, like, even being half. I've seen that and experienced that all my life, and it's like, okay, like, okay. And I know people. I'm not the only one. There's obviously tons of people. It's nice to see this coming to the forefront where people. I think the most important thing is people can talk about it. You know what I mean? And have open conversations, and then hopefully we can educate each other and learn from it. That's the big one.
Well said.
So yeah, it's all happened in a short amount of time, and it's like peeling the layers of the onion for a lot of people, to be honest. It is, and it's. I mean, I think you have to be cautious. It is a double-edged sword at the same time, and I think because, and the only reason I say that it's not what people are pushing for. It's the platform. Is like anyone can say anything on social media. Like, and it's a good thing. It's a great thing. But you have to be, I always say this, even from a teacher before this movement, like Black Lives Matters and all this, is like, question the source, ask where it came from, research it, educate yourself before you make an educated choice or decision. But you should question where it came from.
Yeah, no, it's true, man. It's just getting people thinking about this stuff more than sort of just maybe seeing it, ignoring it, and just understanding that it, what it actually means and stuff, and being, I guess not everyone, particularly the last 2 years, like people weren't around other people to be able to be exposed to other ideas and just understanding and sort of separateness. And now it's, I guess, man, the time of coming back together to be like, hey man, like, we're all the same. Let's just figure out how to make it all work for everybody and stuff. And things like this do bring people together because that's the point. So beer is a social lubricant. Art galleries and art events are social events, and beer is an art, and art is art. And here we are. And obviously, you got music, more art, and conversation. Yeah. It's cool, man. It's cool what you're doing. I think it's more important than maybe people realize, because it's sort of tackling. I mean, we always think from the perspective of growing craft beer. Obviously, we're a beer podcast, so that's mostly what we're focused on here anyway. Obviously, I really, really care about music, and I'm definitely into art. But it's cool to see the approach to it all, and sort of, it's just interesting that you've been able to do this for so long, and then have these other plans to be like, all right, we're gonna do this. I just haven't really seen that before. Anyway. Yeah, whether it's Canada or States or beyond. So it's really cool, man. I love it.
It's fun. No, I appreciate that. It's I think we were talking before this, like vision on this is to really take it past BC, like Hypha Project. It's I honestly believe the brand is a really solid brand, and a message behind it, and intention and integrity, I guess you could say, like honesty of it is like. There is amazing beer everywhere. There's amazing artists everywhere, and we have amazing communities everywhere. They're all like, I mean, it kind of goes back to, I don't know if I explained this at the beginning, but Hypha, the word Hypha literally we chose that name because it comes from the mycelium network. So like mushrooms and fungi, right. They have the mycelium network underground that interacts with the environment, like a symbiotic relationship. And each branch in that mycelium, it's like a branch that goes off, is called a hypha. So it interacts. So it's like there's millions and billions of hyphas within this mycelium, but they're all connected and they're all like intertwined, and they all kind of like one living organism. Like that could be like thousands of kilometers away. Like the biggest organism has been a fungi. So it's like it's interesting. So the whole idea with the hypha is kind of lent from that, like being, we're just one little branch, but we're a big part of this whole kind of thing. And if we can do our, what we're passionate and care about, and do what we can to make it the best, that's just going to lend to everything else. So we're really, we really stick by that, to be honest.
That's sick. As you know what, I'm glad you mentioned that because there was one part earlier on. I was like, oh, I never asked Chris what Hypha actually meant specifically. So thank you for doing that. I always feel like that's an interesting thing because breweries typically have pretty interesting names, and sometimes I forget to ask, hey, where'd the name come from? So
Totally.
Thank you, bro.
Totally.
Want to do that last beer, and then we'll send her home. I'm gonna go grab that. Do you want to tell us about this one?
And this one's I really enjoy for a lot of reasons. I think I like them all. They're like my little babies, but this one is special. One because it's our collaboration with Bright Eyed Brewing. Sorry, I'm just turning it around. And Bright Eyed Brewing is a brewery. It's a small brewery out of Kamloops, BC. They don't distribute their product and package that far. I think it's very local in the Okanagan, in British Columbia. Making killer beers. Like if you love the kind of New England hazy, they even do some really standout sours and fruited beers. They're amazing. Their concept is very similar. Most of their beers is kind of like one and done. They do one beer and it's done because they don't really package a lot of it. It's through their tap room. So most of it's through that, so they can play around. I've known Mitchell. He's one of the owners for like 9-10 years. Solid guy. Loves beer, but it also is very in tuned with the art scene in like very hyper local interior BC, the Kamloops, Okanagan. He's live art, live theater. He does an event every year that's called BrewLoops, or is it saying right? BrewLoops? Yeah, it's BrewLoops, like Kamloops. And one year he had like a fair, merry-go, not a fair, what do you call those like giant circus? Ferris wheel. It's a Ferris wheel. Yeah, he had a giant Ferris wheel at the beer event. Like I wasn't there, but I saw pictures and he throws like really good events. So anyway, we wanted to do an event with them, or event and a brew collab. So we did this with them. This one is a New Zealand IPA, New England IPA specifically. The 3 hops are New Zealand, so it's Wakao, Watuka, and Nelson Sauvin.
Nice.
And yeah, this one, to be honest, is probably one of my favorite beers we've done. I think it's one of the better ones we've done. Okay. Just tons of tropical aroma off the nose right away. You get that with a lot of the New Zealand ones.
Love it. Yeah, New Zealand hops are exceptional. Oof. Those are some great choices right there. The 3.
Absolutely, and then we actually changed the malt bill. A majority of the malt bill is Golden Promise. Just gives it a lot of old English beers use this, and it gives it a little more gristy, cereal, kind of a nice silky mouthfeel as well on top of it.
It's beautiful. We're just taking a photo of it, so I'm gonna get that in a sec. But yeah, Nelson Rakau is fire. So was it brewed out of Vancouver or was it brewed out of Kamloops?
It was Vancouver. So we did it in Vancouver, and then we threw an event in Kamloops when we launched it.
For that, okay.
And that was the kind of Splash Gallery beer release. It was super cool. And yeah, so in the artist, I can't always forget the artist. So the artist is Neil Manuel. He's from Kamloops, actually. So actually the collaboration, we leaned on them to find an artist. They recommended someone that we worked with already. And Neil has his own skateboard brand in Kamloops. So he's a kind of a skater, artist, punk, whatever you want to call it.
Love it.
I think I know why he came up with the Weird Eagles Dare. I didn't pick up on it right away, but he came up with the name and we stuck with it. But after knowing he has a skateboard company, he's kind of skateboard punk. It's the Misfits old song, Where Eagles Dale.
Okay.
So I was like, I bet you that's where it's from. It's his idea. But yeah, he killed it with the art. I mean, people always ask me, what's going on? I'm like,
what's happening here?
No idea, and I'll let you be the judge of it. But it sticks out, the art. And it kind of has an old 80s skateboard feel. Like California, Santa Cruz kind of skateboard feel.
I can definitely see that. Yeah, it's like an eagle's, for people who are listening, it's like an eagle's head on top of what looks like a human head that's blue with ears and big puffy cheeks and a mouth for an eye.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's like
it's got teeth and a tongue for an eye, and then it's still got a mouth, and the head is whistling because it's music notes, and it's doing like a circular mouth, which suggests whistling. But
yeah,
then
and there's a
the
brain
eye-
on top of the bird.
Oh, that's a brain? And
No,
the brain is smiling?
I think it's a brain. I don't know what it is.
Whatever it is, it's smiling. It's like a little
Yeah.
hat. Dude, this is weird as shit. Imagine being like on mushies on the speaking of mushrooms.
Oh yeah,
Whoa.
this one's it's a
Woo.
trippy label.
Yeah, man.
I've had so many people ask me about this. Probably out of all labels, they ask me what is going on here.
What
I'm
is
like,
You know what?
I even asked the artist. He's like, "What do you think is going on?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's a good answer."
Oh, he did one of those? Okay. You know
yeah,
what? I respect that. I'd be like, what do you... I'm like, okay. All right, I see what you did there.
yeah,
Sometimes it's the move. Sometimes you just got to let people know. Let them make up their mind. Now, this is great, man. This has got a nice body. Super, super hazy.
yeah.
Really nice... that kind of white grape from the Nelson. Really bright. Smooth, chalky. It's delicious. This is probably my favorite one, actually, even now you mentioned it too.
Yeah.
Everything was really fantastic, though, and I feel like they were all really different. Even though we have 4 IPAs tonight, there were, a cold IPA to like a the Phantasm, which is kind of like a in-between type of thing, and then to sort of the last one was New England, and then this one is New England, but in a totally different way. It shows the depths of IPAs, which I always appreciate, because I feel like some people might think they're one-dimensional, but far from it.
Totally. There's so many different types out there. You can play around forever with IPAs.
With anything there. So when you guys are brewing, what's the general? So for people who are watching or listening, in BC or beyond, like what's when you release? Obviously, you drop everything on social and stuff. But where can people overall, like, where do you distribute out of? Obviously, you're not. Do you sell out of Slow Hand, or do you distribute? I heard the BC liquor stores are really fire out there. Like, it seems like they really get. It's a different system.
Yeah, it's a hybrid system. So you got like I'm thinking of SAQ is like government-run liquor stores, and then you have some what do you call it, dépanneurs, like corner stores. Yeah. So here we have like 2 channels. Really, it's government liquor stores and the BC liquor stores, and then you have the private.
Okay.
So it's kind of probably out of Canada. It's probably the best hybrid system in all provinces, being like government and private. So for the most part, most craft beer goes to the private. To get listed is a little harder. You have to have the right price point. You have to have volume. You have to, compete with other people. So if you're looking for like really crafty beers, it's always private system. So we sell through the private liquor stores in BC and bars and restaurants. We do some kegs. We do some drops in Alberta for kegs and some for package, smaller amount.
Nice.
And then Manitoba has gotten some a little bit, not a lot, just packaged, a very small amount. But for the most part, we sell most of it in BC. And it's like last 2 or 3 we've sold out just in BC. So it's kind of getting to that point where we sell it pretty fast, which is great.
That's what you want.
Yeah, it's kind of like, everyone would love to sell it and have more stock. Like, let's be honest.
Totally.
So, yeah.
No, this is dope. Sorry, this beer is really, really good, man.
I love this beer. Thank you.
Yeah, this is like, this is killer. This is like real, like, fire ass haze. New Zealand hops are perfect, but it's not just the hops; it's the body. It's got a little bit of that, like a little bit of like the green, the hop burn, the touch.
Mm-hmm.
I love that shit. Like, some people don't like it, but like I love it, and I feel like it also provides longevity for a beer. This was canned a couple months ago, and it does not taste 2 months old. And I think part of that's the hop burn. Like, when you have that hop burn, for whatever it does, it elongates the lifespan of a beer and makes it completely fresh as hell for significantly longer. I love it. You guys really nailed this. But that's dope. I love that you're selling out quick, but people can still get it elsewhere. I always find Winnipeg is Manitoba is such an interesting market, because they're like dead in the middle of the country. So they kind of I've been there a couple of times, and they get the best of both sides. Yeah. From the west and from the east, which is great. So I wasn't entirely surprised to hear you say that. I think that's really great for them. So we just to sort of in the final part here, we were talking sort of off air about this, and you touched on this just before, but because of the contract model, you're able to basically collaborate with breweries any way you damn well please, whether as long as it's brewed out of their space, and you can put the Hypha name on it and bring what you bring to the table, such as that the art side of it, and sort of facilitating that. Like, do you have any sort of plans in the short to medium term to start to expand out of BC and beyond, whether it's in Canada or otherwise?
Yeah, I mean, I think the plan is to at some point when we get probably when we get a brew space to really expand. But I always had this vision of being expanding, not just expanding the beer, but connecting with the community. Once again, going back to the art, connecting with the art and the community within wherever we are. So if we're in Toronto, Montreal, which I love to do there, because I think they have great art scenes and great beer scenes. Yeah. I would love to like have a release there around an event with art, and really tie into the community somehow. And it's this once is going back to, once again, going back to what I said about like the community part is really kind of the fun part I look at. Like, if we look at the pillars, beer, art, community, it's like we can do a lot of really creative, fun stuff. I mean, yes, the art, we can do that as well, but we can really take it to another level with community. So my big thing is always like, somehow if we're doing this in Toronto, say example, Montreal, we're giving back. We're giving back somehow to that community, whatever it is. Like, it's not always money. It could be like, education. It could be like support, whatever, recognition. Like, but I think that's an important key element to this Hypha project is like, how do we give back? And I think that's kind of like, as I think most people do as they get older and kind of like look at what they're doing and where they're at, is like, how do I make this place a better place? And how do I contribute in a good way? And I always feel like that would be something that first of all, I think the Hypha project, we can really connect to that art, the beer, but how can we give back to that community? And so, I would love to see this in Toronto, Montreal, around an event, around somewhere that's kind of like relevant to that community. Even looking at like West Coast of USA. I know the art scenes there is amazing as well. Would love to tap into that. So yeah, even saying that, we're even talking about like, this is kind of like far-fetched, but it's not that far. I think is like Japan, being Takasudo has really good connections out there. Like, I'm half Japanese. It'd be they have a great art scene as well out there. It'd be fun, and they have a great beer scene actually in Japan. Surprisingly, amazing craft beer scene with the expats and everything in the U.S. It's been there for a long time, and I would love to do something there as well. Like, and I think that's kind of like the Hypha brand is really the fun, exciting part of it for me. Is like, this doesn't just have to be BC. This can be anywhere we want to go. So we really celebrate and showcase what each city, each community has. And I think that's the key. And that goes both ways. That's kind of, whoa.
Oh, there
we go. Sorry about that.
You're right, brother.
Yeah. Having this earphone thing.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the key. Like, being able to connect with people. And genuine, and let's have fun. Let's have fun doing it. And I think that's the key to events. Yeah. Is that you can have a lot of fun and you can get really creative on how you connect with people.
Yeah. That real life cool. Sort of that sort of like third dimension that brings it sort of all over. It's all well and good to do it digitally, but it's not the same as sitting next to somebody, looking them in the eye, talking to them, and actually sharing a moment, sharing a beer, explaining something, whatever it might be. It's important. I think as a collective, we've realized that over the last couple of years how important that sharing that physical space is. So I think particularly the beers, I've noticed in the beer scene, people are like ready to go, man. Like that, people are psyched for this summer. It's I know about out there, but it's been a bit of a rainy June so far. So I think we're hoping for a nice. Yeah, I know BC gets a lot of rain anyway. Like over the winter, when we're getting -30, you guys are getting rain, you bastards.
-30.
Yeah,
winter.
Like,
yes.
Yeah, it's the winter. Yeah, so you're like, oh, it's +3 and raining. Yeah. you know, I think if people just sort of are looking forward to doing that. So I definitely agree. And I've seen that vibe too. I think, you know, brewers are throwing a lot of events, and people just seem excited to really get back into that side of things.
Totally, you're totally dead on. Like, you know, people are ready for this. They're ready.
Yeah.
They've been like cooped up. They're ready to have fun, interact. It's interesting you say that. Like, I've talked to a few people in the industry, like media, social media ad agencies, and they're like, this online thing is huge, but I think they said this, and I agree with them, is that the key is having online, virtual, but also like in person. And if you can connect the two, like having a experience, and that's why events, I think, come in and play. It's like if you can have like a first-hand experience or a person-to-person experience and a fun, you know, experience doing that, that if you can connect that with the digital world, that's where it becomes really strong. That digital component, it's like, especially nowadays.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's just matter. You're right. It's just finding that perfect balance of digital and physical, and what works for the brand and what works for what you're trying to do. It's it's cool, man. I think we're moving into a whole new sort of phase that combines it before, because I think the problem with beer, coming from a social media agency, I've been doing this for a long time, and seeing the lack of digital savviness in the craft beer world was always a frustrating thing, and it's, you know, we've always tried to educate and explain, but I think nothing could have there's nothing I ever could have said that would have taught the lessons of the last 2 years than going through that for breweries. I think everybody stepped their game up. I think everybody understands the power of digital, and hopefully that rail, you know, drove that home, that, hey man, like, if anything's taken away from us, well, this was the only avenue that you had. So, you know, the idea, exactly, you nailed it, where it's just a matter of marrying the two in a way that makes sense for each brand, and it sounds like it's going to be an exciting future for craft beer as a whole. Here for it.
I agree 100%. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Chris, this has been awesome, man. I've been really enjoying hanging out with you. You're a champion. I feel like we would get along with, you know, I definitely have to come hang out if you're ever out here or if I'm ever out there. Beer's a fire. Concept is fire. Love everything about what you're doing, man. I'm really glad we connected. This was a lot of fun.
Cool. No, I appreciate it the same too. And you know what? Honestly, I've checked out your podcast and everything. You're doing a great job. So keep it up. You're doing some pretty cool stuff out there. So I'm just happy to be a part of it, and a lot of gratitude to you accept us jump on board with you. So
it's an honor. It's an honor and a pleasure, my bro. Yeah. This is great. It's makes me happy to connecting with great people, telling the story of what you're up to. It's you know, I feel like it's an honor that I get to do that with everyone. So I really appreciate your time and hanging out and your generosity, man. It's this is fantastic. So where can all of the viewers and listeners find Hypha Project online?
Yeah, I mean, probably the best thing is through Instagram. It's just Hypha Project, HYPHA Project, or our website, hyphaproject.com. If you're in Vancouver area, we work through Beer Van. Well, you can order online. They'll deliver you in Lower Mainland like the next day. So it's pretty dope.
That's sick.
But yeah, other than that, check out our website, Instagram. That's our main form digitally online. But like the events, we're looking to do an event in Alberta. Like I said, love to do one in Toronto and Montreal. I have some concepts ready with some partners, maybe. So if anybody wants to do an event out there, I'm looking for some excellent partners. I think it's all about collaborations. Two heads are better than one. But once again, I mean, it's pretty dope what you're doing. I was pretty psyched when you said, "Hey, let's do this," and I was like, "Yeah, I love what you guys are doing." So thanks for having us on board.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate you a lot, man. We have a lot in common, it seems, as well. So it's been very cool. I've enjoyed this a lot. You want to grab the thumbnail? I'm going to take a screenshot of of the screen here. Do you want to hold up some of the cans?
Oh yeah.
Gonna make sure we show these bad boys off. See if I can get 3. There we go. It's always like hard to, I know, it's always so awkward to try and get the. Oh.
Yeah, maybe I'll do 2.
Yeah, you can sit back where you are, and just sort of hold them up next to your face or something, and there you go. That's perfect. Boom.
There we go.
There we go. Look at that. That's money. I know. It's always like there's always the fun part. There we go. All right, ready? Boom. Chris,
Boom.
I'm going to wrap this up. Stick around once after I cut the recording. We'll wrap up offline. But, bro, thank you again for your time. And, guys, everybody, thank you so much for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up. Hit subscribe below. Hit the notification bell so you know when the new drops. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast. Check out the long-form audio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere. We go live, or not live, but we drop the podcast every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Right now we're doing the link-up series on Mondays, typically, also at 8 p.m. Eastern. So check out that. Chris, thank you again for your time. Appreciate you. Everybody, you have a fantastic time of day, whatever it may be. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.